Hello and welcome to the bottomless Marathon Podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with Marathon Dreams. Episode 103, Can Running Help with Weight Loss? So what's going on with me at the moment? I've just done a half marathon, Birmingham to Black Country half marathon down the canals here, if you know Birmingham, the Black Country, well, where I am here in the UK. Went quite well, very humid day. I'm slightly out of shape from where I want to be. So it wasn't my finest performance, but I finished 18th out of 1,400 and 8th in my age category, which are the numbers that I focus on, particularly age category. So I'm really, really pleased with that. And next up for me, it's going to be High Rocks in October. So I've got about 16 weeks for that. And I've got a couple of holidays over the summer. So I need to negotiate those and then aim for that in October, and I'll keep you posted. Now, I wanted to do this podcast this week on the back of a previous podcast I did with Mark Simpson, which seems to be quite popular a couple of episodes back. And if you want to listen to that, of course, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, and check out that episode with Mark Simpson around his weight loss journey when he lost 168 pounds in just over a year, and then has got into running. And it sparked my interest because, if you don't know, and this is the first time listening to this, I'll just give you a quick bit of background. I, myself personally, about 21 years ago, 2005, started my own weight loss journey, where I managed to lose 30-odd kilos, 70-odd pounds, or 5 stone if you're in the UK, and kept it off since then. And of course, that led to my journey to become a fitness professional, and eventually led me to become a running coach and content creator. So I have got a very big vested interest in this because it's what I've done. It's what I've done for years. My joke, my pun is it's my jam, weight loss coaching. It's what I've been part of for the last 17 years as a professional. So I started off back in 2009 as a personal trainer. One-to-one personal trainer, as most people do when they enter the industry. Again, some of you probably know this, but if you don't, that's how most people always get into the industry, really. They come in as a personal trainer, perhaps one-to-one. And because I had a lot of experience, practical hands-on with losing weight, I have got real lived experience. That doesn't mean that you can't be a good weight loss coach if you've never lost weight, but it really helps. And what I want to talk about with you today is running and weight loss, because it's amazing how many people come to me either they've used running as a tool to aid weight loss alongside their other stuff, or it's their primary goal, or they've got weight loss goals alongside, say, a marathon. So say, for example, they wanted to run a marathon in 6 to 12 months. One of their secondary goals, as it were, is to lose some weight to then make that journey easier. Because, of course, if we're talking physics, the lighter you are, obviously, the easier running is going to be. Now, how light you have to be is questionable in terms of mindset and all that kind of thing, which I'll briefly touch on with you today. But I think what I want to talk about is how effective is it as a tool for managing that side of things based on my experience. So a lot of people at the moment are maybe got autumn marathons coming up, or maybe thinking about spring as I record this. Actually, the London Marathon ballot results are coming out. So you may be listening to this and you might be fortunate enough to get a London Marathon place, and it might be your first marathon. So you might have to adjust certain things regarding your lifestyle and your attitude to be able to get you ready for a marathon. And being healthier is one of those things. And of course, if you are not carrying too much body fat, by definition, you are automatically going to be healthier. The first thing I will say is this, and this is important. Okay, what we have to do is we have to separate identity from your physical state, because the biggest problem that everybody gets into when it comes to their weight, particularly females, because of the overemphasis on the number on the scales, for example, is we attach our identity to that particular number. So it becomes who we are. Now, when I was overweight, and if I use the word fat on this podcast, if that upsets you, please excuse me, I'm nearly 50. This is the words that we used. So if you are overweight or fat, then you can't let that become your identity. My problem was I let it become my identity. So I was the fat kid. I was John the fat kid. That was me. That was who I was. And I believed that. When things started to change for me is when my paradigm shifted from seeing myself as that to seeing myself as something different, to then seeing myself as somebody who could run, to then seeing myself as a marathon runner. And I'll do another podcast on this, and obviously a lot of my content is around the very erroneous belief around I am not a runner, I am not a real runner. This fits into that, but in a different way. It's I am overweight, I am the fat person, I will always be the fat person. And you need to change that paradigm first, or look to change that paradigm first, if you will then want to change the physical state. But what you have to do is you have to separate the two things. So being overweight or carrying too much body fat, or whatever language you want to use, is a physical problem. It's not a personal problem. It's a physical problem. Now, how you see yourself arguably is a personal problem, and it's how you see yourself which then translates into your behaviours. And this is really important, because when people say that obesity is a complex issue, In my opinion, what they mean is that the reasons that drive the behaviours that make you obese are complicated. The actual mechanisms to make you obese are not. So obesity, being overweight, carrying too much body fat is about energy balance. It means that you're not expending enough calories and you're ingesting too many calories. Yeah. And we are talking purely from a body fat perspective here. Now, toys go out the pram at this point. People will say, what about different stations in life? What about hormones? What about all this? All that's fine. That's more linked to the rate of weight loss and how hard it is to lose weight, and things like muscle mass and how much muscle mass you've got and how easy it is. So like a 20-year-old is finds it a lot easier, to lose weight than a 50-year-old because of hormonal differences and so on, especially in men because higher testosterone and things like that. Okay, so we're not talking about station in life, we're not talking about hormones, we're not talking about the rate in which fat comes off or where it's distributed. We are talking about the basic principle of energy, which is if you expend more calories than you put into your body, you will lose weight eventually. It might take you longer than others, it might take you quicker than others, but it will happen, and we have to put that in as the first principle. If you disagree with that, you're allowed to disagree with that, but I believe you're always going to have a problem because you are questioning the actual mechanism. It's like trying to become a better runner without actually running. Okay, you only get better at running by running more. Yeah, you only get better. You want to get faster at running by running faster. Yeah, and learning how to do that. So that's the first thing to say. So I want to put that out there just to give you that comfort to know that it is a physical problem. It's not a personal problem. If you see it as a physical problem, it becomes a lot easier to fix because then you can just focus on what needs to happen versus the belief systems around it versus the unfairness versus all this. Yeah. That said, okay, so is running effective for weight loss? The answer to that question will always be it does play a part, of course, because you are more likely to burn more calories by doing running or any sort of cardiovascular based activity than anything else. If you go into the gym and lift weights for half an hour, and if you're doing, say, just a normal standard weightlifting session, it's not super intense, it's not like an interval session, or it's not like a CrossFitty type of session, then chances are if you went for a run for 30 minutes versus lifting weights for 30 minutes, you will burn more calories doing the running because your heart rate's elevated for longer. Okay, that should be quite straightforward and quite easy to comprehend. Now, the longer term benefits of weight training versus running are different, because someone might say, well, if you build more muscle, then you will burn more fat longer term because you've got bigger muscles. Absolutely, there's merit to that, but the problem is if you're not in a calorie deficit, it doesn't matter. You'll have big muscles, but you won't be able to see them because they'll be covered in fat. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to say, right, if you are thinking about using running to aid your weight loss, what you have to remember is that it does play a part and you are more likely to burn more calories with running. But the problem that you've got with anything, this can be running, this can be cycling, can be anything, but obviously we're specialising in running here, is it's a bottomless pit. And here's how to explain this principle, and this will really resonate hopefully with you. So let's say you go for a 30-minute run, yeah? You will burn a certain amount of calories in that 30 minutes, yeah? The problem is eventually your body will adapt to that 30-minute workout. So you'll then have to make a choice. You'll either have to do a more intense workout in that 30 minutes or a more intense run, or you'll have to run for longer. Let's say we go for the longer option and you then start to run for 45 minutes. Brilliant, you're making progress from a time point of view. But if you're looking at just pure calories, eventually, you see where I'm going here, your body will then adapt to the 45 minutes, then you'll have to do an hour, yeah, to get the same return of calories from the workout, yeah, if that's your primary metric. Now, calories are very similar to money. Calories are a great servant, they're not a great master. So it's good to have an observation of it, but it's not good to use that as your sole goal for running or any cardiovascular alone, because a better one to use arguably is something called TDEE, which is total daily energy expenditure. And you can get spreadsheets like this online. Google's your friend here, or AI's your friend here, where you can get spreadsheets on that'll talk to you about your total daily energy expenditure, which is everything, which is walking, which is existing, which is called your basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories your body burns just by being alive, plus your general activity. Okay, what you've got to ask yourself is what I'm doing sustainable? Because I don't believe it's the best option to see running as purely a weight loss thing. Because you can perform quite well even if you're slightly heavier. For example, because of my background, because of being overweight, because of being a weight loss coach and having weight loss be front of mind, I focus sometimes too heavily, quote pun intended, on my weight when it comes to running versus my actual running performance. So when I did that half marathon, I finished in a good position, and I finished ahead of some people, quote unquote, thinner than me or with less body fat than me, because I've arguably got more muscle. And okay, at the moment, I am probably carrying a bit too much body fat than I would like as a personal preference. Okay, so what I'm saying is it doesn't necessarily dictate your running performance. And actually, there are a lot of really good people on the internet who probably talk about this a little bit better than me in terms of their specifically nutrition focus for running. I'm very good at that, but it's not my main area. Is they will say it's worse to be underfueled than it is to be overweight. Now, there's an argument to be had there, but if you're running distances where your body needs to utilize fuel, then it's very dangerous to try and cut your calories in fueling and then try and run longer distances, because that can result in injuries, that can result in excessive fatigue, and that can result in poor recovery. And then it's going to be a struggle for you to then go out and do more runs because you're not going to have the necessary fuel and recovery. And when you're marathon training, you need both of those things. So you have to get that balance right between it's not licensed to eat everything, and it's certainly not licensed to eat junk, because that will cause inflammation and that will cause bigger problems. It's about balance and understanding how to do it. Yeah. So if you are carrying quite a bit of body fat, quite a bit of body weight, and you're a lot heavier than you would like to be, of course, doing any sort of cardiovascular exercise for any period of time is going to create an extra calorie deficit for you, and it is going to be beneficial. That can also be done through walking. I see a lot of people on the internet, fair play to them, who are trying to lose a considerable amount of body fat or body weight and are using walking as that mechanism. Brilliant. It's sustainable. It's not too difficult on the joints. You know what I mean? It's that type of thing. So I think what you want to go in with here is the right mindset and say running should be an accompaniment. Yeah. So when I started losing weight, there was two things that happened. I was overweight for one, and number two, I smoked as well. So I tackled the weight first and then went for the smoking. And the reason why I did that was because I got to a point with my exercise when I thought, if I stop smoking, this will become easier. I will become better at this. And when I interviewed Mark Simpson a few weeks ago, he said the same thing. He said with his weight, he wanted running to help him to help his weight to stay down, to stay sustainable. Because here's a really important distinction I want to make with it, leave you with, and it's a really good way to look at it if this is what you're thinking about. So I might have mentioned this before. I call it the evolve process, right? So the aware process. It's called evolve, but it's the aware process. And the aware process is how you, quote unquote, lose weight and keep it off. So the A is accept reality. So accept where you are. They're just decisions. It's just a physical state. It can be changed. The W is write your goals down. Yeah. The second A is apply daily. So what do you need to do every day? What are the things that move the needle every day? The R is replicate. So what things work, what things you need to keep doing. And then the E, which is the important one in this conversation, is called evolve. Now, evolve is when you lose the weight, what do you then do with it? So when I lost my weight, I said, what do I do with this? I luckily decided to be a fitness professional, which meant that it was then virtually impossible for me to put the weight back on again because I'd chosen to do it professionally. What a lot of people do is they lose the weight through diet and manageable physical activity first, and then start running because they then want to use the weight they've lost for something positive to push them forward, if that makes sense. So back to the point, it comes back to how you see it from a mindset point of view. So is it effective? Of course, you're going to burn more calories running. Of course, you're going to burn more calories doing cardiovascular activity. The question has to be around sustainability and effectiveness in terms of long term. Because when you're young, of course, you can do all this exercise. You've got all the energy in the world. If you work with the people that I work with who are over 35, over 40, over 50, it then becomes more difficult and you have to be more strategic with it. So it's not just about calories, it's about preservation of muscle. For women, it's about preservation of muscle and bones, because these are issues that can face you in later life when certain hormonal changes happen. Okay, so go into it with an open mind. Yes, track this stuff and yes, be aware of it, but also be aware of the bottomless pit theory and the fact that I think it should always be a secondary thing, longer term versus a primary thing. And I'll give you an example. When I did that half marathon on Saturday, I burnt around 1,700 calories. I did it in 90 minutes. It was actually 13.4 miles, not 13.1. So it was slightly longer than half marathon. And I only burnt 1,700 calories, which sounds like a lot, but it's not really when you look at how calorie dense food is nowadays. But again, that's a different conversation for a different day about social factors and environment, because that also plays a part. But I want to keep these nice and punchy. So there you go. So hopefully that gives you something to go on. If you need help, as always, you can reach out to me at 12 Months to Marathon on Instagram. Go to the link in my bio and you can join my free running community as well, where we can take you away from the noise of social media and connect. I do weight loss coaching alongside my running coaching as well, so it's part of what I do as a coach. So if those are two things you can help with, I'm an expert at both. I've got a lot of experience in both. I can help you with both. But again, as long as you adopt that mindset and you look at it in that way, I don't think it matters what you do. So if you're brand new to the podcast, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. That's Apple or Spotify. I do appreciate it as always. Make sure that you share this podcast with your friends. If you're a regular listener and you haven't dropped me a comment or a review yet, that also really helps me as well. So please feel free to do that. Don't forget to follow me at 12 Months to Marathon if you don't already. And of course, if you need any support with this stuff, just reach out and I'll be glad to help you. And if you are in the London Marathon ballot and you've got in, best of luck. It's a great event, and I look forward to seeing how you're getting on. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.